Tuggs is a subscription-only based business at the moment. So when you sign up, we take lots of details about your dog. We have a formula that works out how many calories per dog your dog needs, calories
So
per
you
day
can
your
send it
dog
out,
needs.
yeah.
Yeah, we send it out. And so we basically seen a good jump for retention since we've moved everything over to the UK. So the quality's increased a lot, the packaging's increased.
Hi, I'm Charlie Torban. Welcome to The Dog Father. The aim of this podcast is to look at the wider world of dogs and how it's impacted people's lives and businesses. I've been training dogs for 25 years and I love them dearly, and I'm hoping to share some of this with you.
It's not just that insects are, they a much lower carbon, footprint to produce, and they can feed off food waste. So
yeah, that's the main thing that sits in my head is that to produce them, you're not taking away, you're not taking away resources that you would otherwise have deployed somewhere else. Like the big thing, the big thing there's sort of chat is that the amount of maize that is grown to feed the cattle in these big cattle courts, is the process. Like the maize is cut here and grown here and it's shipped to here and fed, very much in a processed way. Whereas basically insects is all the stuff that us, including the cattle and the sheep and everything, that won't eat.
Yeah, I mean,
rotting food, basically.
Yeah, you can take food that's past its sell by date. I think actually technically in the UK right now you can't do that because simply because of regulatory. In the EU you can, but that's just us falling behind again potentially. But yeah, the idea is you can take banana peel, coffee granules that have been used, and with 2 kilograms of food waste create 1 kilogram of edible insect protein, which can be used somewhere in the feed cycle.
Yeah.
But the point isn't necessarily just this kind of efficiency. It's also the requirement that we as a population have to produce more protein. So, as British people now, we're eating 4 times as much meat as we did 100 years ago, which is crazy. And
are we eating 4 times as much? We're just wasting more, I think.
Both.
I mean, no, but you know what I mean? It's like, I just spent, the best 2 weeks in America, and I grew up with the sort of you eat everything on your plate. I mean, I grew up with wartime parents. My parents were born in the war. My dad was actually born just before the war. And so you grew up with this sort of rationing mentality, whereas you go to America and it's like you're halfway through a burger and it's like, oh yeah, I've had enough. And I'd rather stuff myself sick because I can't bear to leave it on the plate because it's so ingrained in my mind. But I feel like there's so much more like, oh yeah, I don't want to eat that bit. I'm left, it's a bit chewy. Whereas in the past, everyone would have eten everything they had because
there's a much more wasteful culture.
It's because without getting political, it's sort of getting onto like, everyone's like, oh, the cost of living crisis, which, things cost more, but also people spend more on stuff that they don't necessarily need to because we waste so much.
I think a third, and I need this fact checked, I think about a third of food that we buy is wasted. So it's thrown out from going by sell by day or not being used, and so which is crazy.
But also you go to a restaurant and you just see, if you go to a restaurant, you see this sort of like the exodus of what's going out the back door.
No, precisely. And then also countries like India, China, virgining middle classes, they're eating more meat than ever before. Just as kind of wealth accrues there. So the concept is not only do we having a protein source that is efficient to produce and has lower carbon impact is fantastic, but also just as civilization, we need more protein sources integrated into the feed cycle. And insects are a really good way to do it.
Highly efficient way of doing it.
So that's kind of the idea behind, what I wanted to do with Tuggs. And so that was about 2.5 years ago we launched, and it was about maybe 4 or 5 years ago that I first brought the idea to you in this room.
Actually, just after lockdown.
Yes, or kind of
just at the end of lockdown, because we just built this, and we built this at the end of lockdown, because Jack was born, he's just 5.
So it's been a long process, and the reason it took so long was multiple factors, but one was that when I got you on board as an advisor and as an investor, kind of one of our first, if not the first, investor, was you made it pretty clear that we had to test the product before launching, which is something that I don't think any other brands do. The lack of regulation on dog food is
just make it, chuck it out and sell it.
Yeah, I mean, you have guidelines. There's something called FEDIAF, which is the European kind of dog food guidance. But there's no they give recommendations, but there's no certification that you need. You basically don't create a food and send it off to them. They lab test it and come back and say, no, this is below the omega-3, the calcium phosphorus threshold. They give you the guidance, you try and hit it. Or I get with some brands, I don't think do at all, and you just put it on the market.
Yeah.
But with you, obviously, you were pretty adamant, and it made complete sense that this type of product had never been made before. They're sort of a pasteurized, gently cooked dog food made with insects.
Yeah.
So
let's see what happens.
So we did some quite rigorous testing.
I think we need to make more of a. We still need to make more of a thing about that. We should probably do a entire story about the kind of that process, because basically what we did was the original test was we had 2 litters of puppies.
So Daffy and
Wussy and Daffy, yeah. and they're both just sort of coming to their end of their retirement almost. 2 litters of puppies off sisters. The stud dog was the same, litter sisters, so they were born within 3 days of each other. So they were as identical as possible. I think 1 litter was 8 and 1 litter was 7, and we fed one of them on. We brought one of the mums and the puppies all up on Tuggs, and one of them up on the food we were using at the time, and it was literally you couldn't have. I don't think a lab at Cambridge could have come up with a better a better scenario than that, in terms of that is like for like testing as best as you can get.
Exactly,
and then we did a bit more of it, and it was quite. It was also really handy. Because we have all these vet students from Glasgow coming. It was also really handy and interesting for them to see that.
But
being done.
The test was though that it was 1 litter was fed on premium raw food. And the other
was it raw? I couldn't remember what it was.
One was premium raw, one was Tuggs, and we basically over the course of from weaning until 3 or 4 months.
But we fed the mums on the food while they were feeding the puppies as well. So we fed the mums on the food while they were feeding the puppies, and then we started the puppies weaning onto them, and then right the way through the process till they were.
So we had the students basically overseeing it and
weighing the puppies, weighing the food,
the body condition score and everything. Which was I think it was super important. It gave a lot of reassurance to what we were doing, reassured you as well.
Yeah. So where does the name come from?
So Tuggs.
Because people always ask me this.
Thinking there's an innuendo there.
No.
We sometimes get that. The idea of Tuggs is that we're tugging for change in the industry. And and not that you would recommend this, some people tug on a lead.
No, but you see, it's because in my head I'm like tugging on your dog lead. Bugs and Tuggs, kind of,
bugs, tugs,
it rhymes. So there's so you're tugging for change. That was that's
the idea. We're tugging for change in the industry with the mission to let dogs thrive, not just survive, without sacrificing the planet. That's the company statement.
There you go. Good. No, I just wanted to kind of, because we've talked about that before, but I always forget it, and I always use the sort of tugging on the lead, the bugs and Tuggs thing, and I'm like, I'm sure there's something else, and I always forget.
Yeah, no, we get asked that a lot.
But like tugging on the lead to change direction. Let's go in this direction. It's good. It's good. Makes sense. Before, just to kind of reverse back, because we were just talking about it before we pressed record. We actually met when you were about 8, you reckon?
Yeah.
Because your dad was a very early customer of mine. Yeah. And you basically grew up with 2 Mordor gun dogs.
Yeah, we
grew up with two of our black Labradors.
Yes, we had Murphy first, which I think must have been about 8. So no, it was funny because every time I come here, and I come maybe once, twice a year, it's the fondest memories driving up the road. Because when I was younger, I just associated this with getting a dog, or we'd come if we were picking up the dog after
holidays, so he used to come here and stay for boarding.
We had Murphy and then Harvey a few years later as well. So
it's just quite funny that how things. I just love the sort of the stories. We've got friends of my kids, their mothers are friends of my wife, their mothers are friends of my wife's mother. I love that sort of the fact that you came here right at the beginning when this place was still a building site.
You must have been young. You're a bachelor.
I was young. Imagine that. I was young. Holy crap! My children won't believe you. It was very early on, like 2007, 8 kind of time. 9. How old are you?
I'm 29. So no, it must be about 2005 or something like that.
Oh, right at the beginning then.
Yeah.
Yeah, really, really at the beginning. Fine. So I bought 2006 when I got this.
Okay,
so you must have been then. So this place was your you borrowed your mum's car to come up here today, and she questioned how the road was because back in those days you could barely get up with a tractor.
Yeah,
And I think 3 people lost their sumps over there,
three.
which didn't go down too well. They're sort of, I'm coming to buy a dog, and I'd lost my sump on the way up and written my car off. Oops.
No, it's improved. Yeah, my mom was very worried about, yeah, when we used to come up, it was just basically an off-road track.
Off-road course, yeah, it was part of the, and you turn up and there was sort of hardly any buildings. It was all falling down. It was just this sort of brand new kennel building, and everything else was sort of slightly I don't know why anybody bought dogs off me in those days. I mean, literally, it must have looked like a sort of like a tinker's yard. But anyway, it's so that's quite cool that you basically you grew up with my dogs, and then you had this idea of dog food, and you came back to this, like, to basically to sort of pitch to me the idea when Jack was, or you spoke to me on the phone. Your dad had mentioned it to me, and then we spoke on the phone. You came back up, and I was like, "This sounds like a great idea."
Yeah, well, I mean, so, yeah, and it was at that stage we didn't have a we didn't have a name,
Didn't have a
or
net,
pro-
didn't have anything. You just had an
I
idea.
had an idea, and then it was a long period really to get the recipes right, the testing,
But
so
everything always takes longer than.
and then the manufacturing was a nightmare because this type of product.
Because we started off with kind of, there was this wanted to do everything in Scotland, and the initial conversations were with the people who are now got the factory and making it. But that like rolled on and didn't happen. It didn't happen. You ended up getting it made by a sort of slightly kind of mentor of yours. Who's got a similar business but in Italy,
in Milan. Yeah, so I ended up doing my dissertation at uni. The title was of the thesis was, "As an insect-based dog food, a viable product for the UK dog food market?" And one of the guys that I spent some time interviewing was someone that was running a fresh dog food company in Italy. And then when I kind of came up with, I then decided, I wanted basically the conclusion of the dissertation was, yes, there is a market for this.
and I want to do this.
Yeah, but it was interesting though because I spent a lot of time in the dissertation speaking to dog customers. I think I spoke to 400 dog owners, asking them, would you buy an insect-based product, for example? And resoundingly, the answer was no. It was like, but when I asked why, it wasn't the ick factor. It was, why? Why would we buy it? It's not. And I'd say, well, it's more sustainable. And they say, well, that's great, but that doesn't appeal to me. Yeah, I'm not going to buy something that's just because it's sustainable. I'm not, I could, there's food that I could eat myself day to day, which is more sustainable, but I'm not going to do it because it doesn't have the nutritional values and benefits. And I apply that to my dog. So when I came back and said, okay, how about a hybrid product that mixes meats and insects so that, there's a little bit of, variation in the diet, and also, if we were to show that it has nutritional benefits, and the answer was yes. So that's kind of, again, how I converged on the idea of Tuggs. But so then, so after the dissertation, that's, speaking to you in between that time, and then trying to find someone that would make the food. I was speaking to someone in Scotland, who, as you say, we now manufacture for, because I was going down a very different kind of strategy with Tuggs. So there's a couple of main competitors in the UK. One has raised 450 million,
and built a massive factory and
everything else, and
turned into a monster.
Yeah, and another's done the same. But my strategy has always been, let's do something that's less capital intensive. At the time of launching Tuggs, as I said, I was 25, and with a little bit of prior entrepreneurial experience, but nothing, not like a background of an exit. I'm going to be able to raise significant sums of capital. So my view has always been to outsource.
Yeah.
Find a very good, strong strategic partner that can make the food for us, a warehouse team that can fulfill orders for us. Means that we raise less money. If we can do it at an okay margin, we can scale quickly. So I was, but finding someone that could make the food was impossible. Because
the big guys do it in house.
Well, there's only two. At the time, there's only two main companies that did it. They did it in house. They weren't going to do it for a competitor. And any other dog food manufacturer in the country only makes. They can't do a pasteurized product. Most of them don't even have freezer space for ingredients because it's just dry food.
Dry food, yeah.
So they would have to build a completely new a production line for us.
Yeah.
Which would cost £500,000, £1 million, and
on a whim that you might turn into a good customer. Yeah.
But I did find someone that was willing to do it, but they couldn't get the correct regulatory approval in time, and it was just taking a lot of time. So I came back to this guy called Luigi in Italy, and he agreed to make our first batch for us.
Was he not a football referee as well, who looks a bit like me?
Yeah.
Is it not?
Yeah, an old World Cup
Old
referee.
World
Yeah.
Cup referee called Pierre Luigi, because there was a guy I used to know when I was like 21 or something in the. I used to go to the pub and he used to call me. He was Italian. He always would forget my name. He's like, "Oh, it's Pierre Luigi." As I walked in, I was like,
I know
"I've
you're
never followed
thinking of
football. I've never."
the scariest looking. This referee was like the most.
It was basically he probably had about alopecia, or he had a bald head. Basically, that was presumably the kind of the link.
Yeah, but he was. Yeah, I remember that. Anyway, so no, we started making the food there, and it took us a long time to finally kind of build up to scale, and then we managed to bring everything back just a couple months ago. So
Yeah.
we were manufacturing in Scotland.
So you've gone back to the original
Yeah.
guy who has now got regulatory approval
And built the
and
production
built the
line.
production line. But the advantage for him is that Tuggs is now of a size that actually is a much more interest to him, because he's not just making a ton a month and you're hoping to flog it out the back of your car. He's now making a reasonable amount for you.
Well, exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the idea. It's now a decent enough scale that it makes commercial sense.
And ultimately, yeah, and there's another company that I'm not sure when they started before you, but they're very much about kind of, they were making it in their kitchen and they still make it, and their kind of marketing is you see the owners literally like
Yeah.
in the factory, in their own factory, which is just a sort of fairly small warehouse with their little white hats on, and they're making it's just that was their thing, because they were sort of a mum and dad sort of setup who wanted to make dog food for their dogs, whereas yeah, your thing is much more like making a good product on the sort of, but more on the sort of business end of it. You weren't that excited about getting in there and catching the bugs and making the food, and everyone goes about things in different ways. I mean, we're obviously, like, when I built this place, I laid all the stones and all the concrete and drove the diggers, and everyone's like, God, how do you know how to do that? It's like, we're all just different, aren't we?
Well, with Tuggs, we want to create the best quality product we can at the most affordable price we can offer, and that's the difference with the company you mentioned that kind of make it all themselves, and the quality of their food's incredible, but it's twice the cost of ours. And I think our food is comparable.
Yeah, theirs isn't twice as better. So
Right.
yeah.
So no, that's kind of been the strategy. So this year's been very positive now that we've managed to bring everything back over.
And it's just nice that everything's now done in the UK, because the insects are coming from just outside Cambridge, which I still haven't been to the farm, but I have it.
Yeah,
It's on the list, by the way, so we can go and do a podcast with them.
Yeah, we could, yeah.
So the insects are from the UK, the manufacturing's in Scotland, and obviously the business is, you're from Scotland but you're based in London now, but it's sort of, it's nice that it's a fully like UK based business, however much the current government are trying to fight against anyone who wants to do anything positive.
Yeah, no,
which is fab, and I like, I think that's great, and so you've also you managed to win a couple of awards quite early on as well.
Yeah, we won a Scottish Edge Award. That was
So what is that?
It's a very good competition, to be fair. It's run by it's sort of RBS and Scottish Enterprise, I think, together you do it, and it's
still startup business, kind of encouraging young startup.
pretty early stage, and you can win up to 100K. Kind of a mixture of grants and loans.
Yeah,
we won that early on, and it was presented by the First Minister at the time, which was nice. Who's obviously changed now. It seemed to be changing First Minister all the time. So no, that was positive, and there's and we've raised some capital as well over the.
And how have the kind of the recipes, like the actual dog food, how's that evolved in the last 2-3 years, since kind of they had the idea, say 4.5 years ago, you were here talking to me, then you started making some, and then the recipes have been changed a bit, the flavors have changed a bit, the packaging's changed a bit. Like, what really hasn't changed and what's majorly changed in the last kind of few years?
The composition has stayed more or less the same. The difference has been suppliers. So I mean, especially insect suppliers. So when we finally came around to being able to do our first production run, which was in Milan, I've been working with an insect company.
Sounds very like fashion. Oh yeah, we did our first.
We
did our first run in Milan of insect-based dog food. Yeah, okay.
Sounds so. But no. So when we first, I've been working with this insect a company for about a year doing trials with them, and they didn't a lot of these insect farms are launched in the last 5-10 years.
Yeah.
It's very novel, so they're very keen to have a partner to work with. And there was this one company that finally, I got the approval from Pierluigi in Italy, saying, okay, we can go ahead with this. So I called them up. I said, I need to make a first order. We need to ship over to Italy. And they said, oh, we no longer are farming insects. They'd gone into insect tech.
Okay.
So this was about 2 weeks before we were going to produce the food, and I'd been waiting about a year to actually get to this position. So I had 2 weeks to find an alternative supplier, get stuff to Italy. I ended up finding a random company in the south of France
Okay.
that could only supply insect meal, which is the concentrated powder.
Yeah.
Which isn't what we wanted at all. We want fresh larvae that's kind of, well, we just basically the fresh larvae itself that we use that's unprocessed. This was just the larvae, but it's the water's taken out, it's extracted, and to make it a concentrated flour. So we just had to go with that and use that in the recipes. And the product came out as dark as these mics, because the black soldier fly is dark, it's black. But when you have the larvae, it's more kind of like a caramel color. So it looks quite nice in the recipe. And it's all blended in the
Meat
recipe.
color, beef kind of shepherd's pie color, rather than.
And you don't see the insect in the recipe. It's all blended in and whatever. But with this powder, it just made everything super dark, and because it was powder, it just made the recipe solid as concrete. So our first production run that we were selling for the first 3 to 6 months was basically slabs of like black brick, which was terrible. So then we found another partner that was just in the Netherlands that could do the kind of good quality that we wanted, and that improved everything. And since we brought everything back to the UK, we're now using British, suppliers, and we've just kind of improved,
British bugs.
Yeah, British bugs. And so the actual recipes themselves have stayed
Okay,
the same, but
just some of the
quality of the ingredients
has got better.
And
we talked about this just recently. As soon as you move to the not to knock your Italian football chat or non-football chat, but the quality of the product just went from like here to here as soon as you went to this new guys.
I think we just had a bit more control over the supply chain. I think the cooking process was perhaps a little bit better, and so we have seen quite an improvement in retention, basically. So I mean, Tuggs is a subscription-only business at the moment. So when you sign up, we take lots of details about your dog. We have a formula that works out how many calories per dog your dog needs, calories per day.
So you send it out.
Yeah, we send it out. And so we basically seen a good jump in retention since we've moved everything over to the UK. So the quality's increased a lot, the packaging's increased. So it took a bit of time, but it's been worth it, I think, overall.
There's always things that you need to. There's always going to be things you need to improve on. So
a lot of little teething issues.
And the new packets. I mean, Antonio and I haven't seen them yet. We've seen pictures, but the new packets look like from her point of view, they're just they stand up. You cut the top off. You can put them in the fridge, like still in their packet.
And it just vacuum sealed.
Because Antonio's thing was always you cut them open, and then you're going to get some. You've then got to find a Tupperware or something to put it in.
Exactly.
Or it like dribbles all over as you're cutting it. It dribbled over the side in the kitchen, and she was
improved now. Yeah, but I mean the sourcing of the insects, it's obviously kind of a key thing I believe in, using innovative proteins where we can, but it has made it so much more difficult making this food. So for example, we made some treats which came out last year, which are venison and mealworm, and I think the first kind of air dried meal or treats made with mealworm ever in the UK. And getting the mealworm into the UK was an absolute nightmare.
Oh, so sort of regulation importing.
Well, we were shipping it frozen, and it would get to the border, and the border control had no idea what to do with it. They'd never seen this for like frozen mealworm. Mealworm's used for birds and everything, but it's the dried form that people know. But just this frozen block of mealworm, they had no idea what it was.
Yeah.
Kept sending it back. Eventually, our supplier flew over 20 kilograms of mealworm on an EasyJet flight in a suitcase.
It's Pablo Escobar with a slightly less exciting version, isn't it?
and hand delivered it to our production.
Oh wow! Okay.
Treats, and that's how we did the first kind of tests. Then when
a suitcase of mealworm, add in all the other stuff, produces quite a lot of dog treats, doesn't it?
It didn't. Well, that was just that did kind of trials for us, because we had to just make sure that it was good palatability and everything else. Then when we did the full production, we got a pallet and we tried to send that, and
EasyJet wouldn't accept that.
it wouldn't take.
Sorry, you're oversized. You've got to pay extra.
So what we had to do is we had to get approval that we basically had to get it certified human food grade.
Okay.
Which I'm led to understand this is probably one of the least exciting facts that you can say, but I'm proud of it. I think Tuggs is the first British company in history to import human grade mealworm.
There you go.
So that was the only way we could get it past customs, because I don't. There's something about it being human grade. They thought, oh, it's past an extra level of regulatory approval.
Okay.
It must be fine. Whereas when we tried it as feed grade, which is would be for dog food, they would just send it back every time. So I mean, that was it's been difficult trying to make products with insects. It's been
Yeah, but if it was easy, the old thing, if it was easy, everybody would do.
yeah.
So what is the future's bright, the future's bugs? What's the plan going forward? So the existing products is just a constant kind of making sure the quality's good, and that the if possible the suppliers just do a better and better job. So everything's just getting better.
Yeah, no, I mean,
staying the same or getting better, sort of thing.
yeah, continuous improvement, basically.
What other you came out with some dog treats last year. What's the sort of what other things are you looking to do other things, or are you wanting to just focus on like Warren Buffett kind of mentality, instead of spreading yourself too thin, keep all your eggs in the same basket and just watch that bloody basket?
Well, there's a few. Basically, we're at a good point with our product selection now, but we're adding one more recipe, which will take us to 5 in total.
So what's that going to be? What are just run us? What are the recipes and the names you give them?
So we've got beef brigade,
chicken coop.
Sorry, chicken coop. You're right. This is the people get mixed up with it's chicken coop or chicken coop. It's chicken coop. I was getting mixed.
It's because of jock accent.
Beef brigade, chicken coop, cod crew, and pork power.
Pork power, cod crew.
And we're adding turkey triumph, which was an initial recipe.
So you did do. I was going to say we did have turkey before,
and we had to change it for chicken because when we moved everything to the UK, because chicken is more readily available than turkey. In Italy, turkey was readily available.
Yeah.
But we're adding.
It's kind of as it probably would be in the States because everything's turkey.
Yeah.
But over here, it's just less common.
Yeah. So we have that. Then a range of treats. We've got the venison and mealworm treats at the moment. We then have some dog chews, which are yak bars.
Yep.
Have you seen those? They're basically made of yak milk. Just milk and a little bit of salt.
So the yak's milk isn't coming from Scotland.
No.
UK there.
From the Himalayas that comes from.
So why yak's? Why yak's milk?
It's just this isn't a product that we've come like a new product development we've done ourselves. This is kind of an established product. It's basically meat free and a long lasting chew, which we quite liked. And then some poo bags as well.
Okay.
And then we're adding the next thing we're working on is supplements. Okay. So they're going to be insect based, looking at gut health, joints, coat, and probably some either teeth or calming. Those are kind of the key main benefits that we want to hit. So I think once we have that range, we're doing quite well. And then I think it's about, we're 100% subscription at the moment. We want to start looking at, maybe retail presence so that people can maybe go in, buy a couple of pouches without having to subscribe or whatever else.
Or if they're somewhere else or they run out or...
Precisely, yeah. So that's kind of the next kind of bit for us to work on.
And where would you aim, like, what would be the kind of the sort of the golden ticket, as well? If you could get it into one particular place, where would it be?
Well, because retail for pet food in the UK is split into specialty and grocery. So specialty is the Pets at Home, Jolly's, Pets Corner, who have the majority of stores, and then there's a lot of independents.
Yeah.
So really, if you're going for specialty, you're going for one of those three. And then there's grocery.
So you'd want a freezer in Pets at Home somewhere.
Potentially, yeah. For example.
And if you get into one, you get into a lot of them, kind of thing.
Yeah, usually my understanding is they'll trial you in maybe 10 stores or whatnot, and then expand you out. And in grocery, you're looking at Waitrose, Whole Foods, M&S, Sainsbury's.
Sort of a higher, like, more what would be the word? I don't know. The places more expensive. The places my wife would go.
Arguably, yeah. I mean,
rather than Asda and Tesco.
Potential. Well, Tesco does now have some frozen dog food in it. And as I say, we are priced, a lot more competitively than the likes of Butternut Box or whoever
Okay.
else. So and even compared to the likes of Lily's Kitchen, a pouch of Tuggs is comparable. So
Okay.
so no, we're looking into all options, I suppose.
Okay.
As the next step.
And presumably the complication of that is if you've got just making a number up, if you've got 100 subscribers, and that relatively they're consistent, so you're going to have, give or take 100 subscribers next month,
Yeah.
plus whatever the growth is, 5%, so you've got 5 new ones a month. You can predict quite well what you need to produce, whereas if you start going into a shop, then it could go completely mad, and you get a phone call from the shop saying, oh, we need 40 tons.
But
And then you're like, oh my god. But it could also not. There's quite hard to predict that, isn't it, from your point of view? Like, being able to move quickly is not, I've been to the factory. It's fine, but it's not like, it's not an Amazon building. It's not sort of massive, is it? So
not yet.
and they produce dog food they do other things, other dog food as well. So no, I'm just interested in the kind of I mean, it's a question I would ask you off camera as much as I would on camera, but it just, how do you see that to me that becomes your next big kind of, you've got the sort of the manufacturing, you've got the suppliers, you've got the packaging, you've got the kind of the shipment, you've got the sort of website, like you've got everything kind of running. Is always going to need tweaked, as everything does, but you've got everything kind of works, and then you're going to suddenly throw yourself into a kind of like into a completely unknown sort of area, which is going to be your next kind of that's going to be your next kind of problem, isn't it?
Well, hopefully.
Good problem to have.
Yeah.
Someone orders someone wants
No,
a massive
exactly.
order.
But no, I mean, we've been quite careful, or I've been quite careful in picking, selecting these partners, our warehousing, our manufacturing partner, that
They've got the ability to
they've got the ability to scale, as and with quite ambitious projections that we have. So I think if it would only be a worry if we go into a couple of stores and they order 100 tons immediate that they need for next week.
But they're not going to do that.
No, I think we do have quite a sizable opportunity to scale, with our current partners, and so I've been foresee it being an issue, but hopefully it does become.
It's a good issue to have. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what would be so obviously, like, our connection is we were involved in the beginning, with the testing, and then we do, obviously we're doing limited amount of sort of promotion. All of our puppies leave eating Tuggs, so we push people sort of onto Tuggs as best we can, and there's obviously more we can do. What's your kind of what do you foresee happening? Do you want this to become Farmer's Dog Monster? Do you think that someone else will? I mean, has someone tried to buy it? Do you think someone will come along and try to buy you out? That's the kind of obvious thing to me is, and I interviewed another. We were talking about him the other day. I interviewed another dog food. Is about the same age as you. He didn't start the business. His great something or other started the business. And I asked him the question, was like, would you sell it? And he's like, no, it's not on our remit, because it's got our name on it. It's their family name, and it's something he's inherited. His dad basically built it, and he's inherited it. And he's like, yeah, we regularly get people kind of contacting us wanting to buy us because we're an established brand, because that is what happens. I mean, I've got a client in America who he was a marketing guy. He built up a fairly mediocre dry dog food brand, as far as I'm concerned, because I've seen it, and sold it for an absolute fortune. But he was a marketing executive from New York. That was his kind of like, oh, I'm going to set up a dog food business, and away he went. But do you think you'll, at some point, do you think you would sell it out to somebody? You would be sort of swallowed up by a bigger competitor. Do you think that's the most likely thing that happens?
I think it's the most likely, because it's different to a lot of these family businesses that have been around for hundreds of years. We've set up with or I've set a company up with the ambition to create, the best quality dog food we can in a market that, has where there's a market for it, and create a really good product and a really, really good company. But, in order to kind of hit the milestones we've already done, we've had to raise investment. We've got investors like yourself that might want to
Yeah,
liquidate
who
that
might run out
position
at
at
some
some
point.
point.
Yeah.
Um, and we've there's been I've not been approached with any kind of concrete offer to sell, but there's a lot of consolidation going on in the pet food, especially in dog food in the UK right now, and there are a lot of interested parties. And I think when we start, scaling more sizably, then there'll be a lot more conversations there. And I think it depends on what's best for the company.